This week in NWP, come rain, come shine, come snow, come sleet, the show must go on.
But what's the first thing an actor learns? The show must go on. Come rain, come shine, come snow, come sleet, the show must go on. So Reedy, Pagliacci, Reedy.
Reedy, huh?
Yeah.
Dom, the world is so full of a number of things. I'm sure we should all be as happy as. But are we? No. Definitely no. Positively no. Decidedly no. Short people have long faces, and long people have short faces. Big people have little humor, and little people have no humor at all.
And in the words of that immortal bard, Samuel J. Snodgrass, as he was about to be led to the guillotine, make 'em laugh, make 'em laugh. Don't you know everyone wants to laugh? My dad said, be an actor, my son, but be a comical one. They'll be standing in lines for those old hunky-tonk.
Hello everyone and welcome to Nerds Without Pants, episode 143. We cover everything while bearing it all. I'm a very sick Julian, and I'm joined as always by a also very sick Patrick.
Yeah, I was trying to get on the backs of everybody else's achievements this episode.
Yeah, I was trying to get on your back this episode. I've been sick for the last few days, and I was like, oh, good. Tonight is Patrick's hosting the stage select section, so I can just kick back and coast. And then you were like, I don't want to talk that much tonight, and I was like, I don't either, but okay. We apologize in advance for the frogginess in our throats. Hopefully, by the time you're listening to this, I will have eliminated all of the sniffles and coughs and what have yous that we're both bound to make during this recording. Probably be a shorter show, compared to last time, so we'll just go ahead and jump into it with stage select. Patrick, this is your stage select, and I thought it was going to be a stage select that we were going to get a ton of listener response on, but I think I scared them off last time when I said that I wanted lots and lots of stuff because that resulted in a 4-hour show. So they were like, oh no, when we do that, like the show's way too long, so we gotta scale back.
Yeah, I guess I thought a lot of people would want to talk about themselves, and I was happy to hear it, but we got 8 or so, which is not bad.
Yeah, we got a good handful. You want to tell people what we're doing this week?
So, our top video game achievements, and maybe I shouldn't have said top 3 because when I just said, your top achievements on the Discord earlier today, a couple people chimed in. But yeah, we've been pretty active on there, and you can catch people like a Roguish Ham, Angelo and Nick and all different types of people that write on the website, like Casey and people like that. So
we had actually brought up the Pixelbit Discord on that episode with Jesse where the beginning of the show got chewed up, so we've never actually talked about it on the show. There's a Pixelbit Discord. I don't understand Discord at all, so I'm not on there, but Patrick is.
Oh yeah, that's funny. I shouted it out one other time, but I guess that's when it got chewed away.
Yeah. So, I'll try to put a link, figure out how to get a link for that, and I'll put it in the show notes. I am the old man with Discord. Like, people have explained it to me multiple times, and I'm still like, yeah, no, I don't get it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be willfully ignorant. It's just like, every time that I hear it explained, I'm like, okay, that sounds really convoluted and not really intuitive, but a lot of people use it, so that's good.
Yeah, I like the color scheme, but it's got the best quality of any video chats that I know. I use it all the time for video games, but now other companies are starting to use it for just regular conversations, and I guess that's okay, but it was initially just used as video game chat rooms for when you're playing. But, yeah.
And I'm sure that as it gets, more and more corporate, then everybody will move on to some other new hotness, in a couple years.
Oh, yeah.
Like, no, we need something just for gamers.
Yeah, that's what this was. But, I guess Slack is like that too. and it's already becoming more than it was supposed to be. It already takes up like so much of your battery power, and it's like, this is just a chat app. But
right,
that's where a lot of the Pixelbit people are chatting these days, though. You can even get Nick to give you new accounts if you don't have an account for Pixelbit.com. I've seen him do that as well. So it's where you get real live tech support as well.
Yeah, sometimes it's easier to get a hold of Nick that way, or sometimes through Twitter than it is like through the actual site sometimes. Mm-hmm. But I know he's been a really busy dude, like the last few years. So.
And I think they're redesigning it again.
Yeah, that's been in the works for a while, but I think we're getting close to that being a reality. So, how do you want to do this, Patrick? Where do you want to start?
So, are you particularly excited about any of your achievements? Or anything you want to get off your chest? Or are we going 3, 2, 1?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we can go. I plan to go 3, 2, 1, but it's however you want to do it. My thinking with this was to very specifically not talk about any game related achievements that I've kind of talked about on the show before.
Yeah.
So that was a little more challenging because, the ones that I'm really, really excited and proud of are the ones that I talk about all the time.
Yeah.
Like beating Mass Effect 2 or actually getting all the achievements on Mass Effect 2, including beating it on like the ultra hard difficulty, which I'll never do again. Things like that I've talked about multiple times, but the ones that I picked were like very specifically curated. Like I have never mentioned these on the show at all.
That's cool because I had trouble thinking, what have I explained too much already in the past? And are those like my favorite ones, or are those just like the stories I like to tell? Or, are those the hardest ones? So I think I landed on a few good ones, but since we've talked so much about our achievements just for show segments in the past, I'm most excited about our listeners. If you curated them specifically for stuff that you haven't mentioned on the show before, let's start with you,
Yeah, sure. And I would like to point out for the listeners, because like we did do an episode all about trophies and achievements. It was actually like episode number 3, but that was like 6 years ago. So I'm sure both of us have made like, if we're just talking achievements, like I'm sure that we have gotten some since then that are like bigger deals than back then. But, the ones that I picked actually aren't tied to like trophies or anything like that. So my number 3 actually ties into my number 1 a little bit, but one of the things that I'm very proud of that I enacted back when I was in charge of the Game Fellas location at Lakeline Mall was we started doing video game tournaments, like hardcore, we actually had like a season. Like we would do like, basically like every other month we would do a different game tournament, and we'd make flyers for them and, invite people. And it was like an entry fee thing where basically, the whole pot went to the prizes. So it was more of just like building goodwill with the community and bringing people into the store and, helping everybody get to know the store and the people that worked at the store. And the Street Fighter Alpha 3 tournament, was a very big success. Mm-hmm. And after everything was all said and done, Ken, this guy who worked at a jewelry store in the mall, he ended up taking the whole pot. He played as Ken because he just thought that was cool that there was a name or character named after him in the game. But afterwards I challenged him to a match and I won. I beat the tar out of Ken. Because you got to remember that like I never had a lot of friends. I didn't have a lot of people to play Street Fighter with other than my cousin. And we were always like on an even level, like throughout our whole lives. So it was very rare for me to be able to play against people that I didn't know very well or not play against just the computer. So knowing that I was able to take the winner of our Alpha 3 tournament was a very big point of pride to me. And we actually, this is kind of funny. My guys had actually set up like a VCR to record like the top matches, like I think the top bracket of the tournament. So for a while there, I had a VHS copy of my match with Ken, and I would just watch it over and over. It's like, oh yeah, this is the part where I juggle him with Guile's V-ism flash kick. Yeah, that's some good shit.
Nice. Yeah, I won one time in a tournament, and that was like a big excitement for me, but like that was one of the lower guys in the tournament, so I didn't get far or anything and didn't beat anybody who was really good. But that would be something one day I'd like to get to the point of. Now people are, dedicating their lives to it in Chicagoland's area, and it's just like, oh man, like there are infinite combos going on this entire match, and I don't know how they're even juggling this long, and I don't know how I'm ever going to get to that point, but it's just fun to have that one moment at the same time.
I will say, just as a brief aside, that when I picked up the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection earlier this year, I went and I got online with Alpha 3, and I was like, I bet I'm going to get, like, just obliterated on here, because I've never played Alpha 3 against, like, really good people, right? Like, I've always played against just, that's one of the things that, like, you can't get better if you're playing with just, like, people that are as good as you or worse, right? But I was very pleasantly surprised. Like, the first 3 matches that I fought, I won. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, maybe I have more of an affinity with Alpha 3 than I think I do. Mm-hmm. But of course, I didn't go any further than that. I'm sure if I ranked up, then I would instantly start losing.
Yeah, there's a point where you can't really deal with what's coming at you. It just seems to get harder than you, no matter how good you are.
You got to get on, like, that first day, and then you can get, like, some really scrubby wins under your belt, and then that's probably it.
Yeah, it's a lot harder now than it was back then when I went on. I was almost going to include when I got to silver in Street Fighter V, but the thing that happened was when I got all the way up through the bronze tier, when I got, like, that win that brought me up to silver. No, in fact, it brought me up to super bronze. So,
right.
So I never got that achievement. But I thought I was very close. Turned out I was, like, 500 SP away, and I was like, no fucking way.
I did pretty good on Street Fighter 4. I was pretty pleased with what I was able to accomplish on that game. But I definitely plateaued. I would love to fire up my old 360 because I know I still have replays from Street Fighter 4 on there saved, and some of those are like, I'll still go, like, I would look at them like, months after, it's like, yeah, that guy thought he had me.
Yeah. You came back with a bunch of dodges or blocks, and I thought about including something like more personal in like that list, like when I beat a friend in high school who was talking big about like being the best in Madden or something, but I didn't know how to quantify that so much, so I kept it more to the stuff that was actually, like the end of something single player, or like a trophy, or like a type of material that I got in an online MMO. But I have kind of talked about the first one more than any of the others already, and I didn't really put them in any order, so I'll just start off with saying that I got the ending in Bloodborne with like the 3 umbilical cords and like a moon presence the first time through, and didn't know that was going to happen, but I just kind of like stumbled upon it because I was like looking in the world that much, I was exploring that much, and it was pretty crazy because I only got a little bit of help from my one friend Ryan, but it was at the beginning of the release when, just like in a fighting game when everybody's figuring things out, people didn't know what had happened in the world, and everybody was piecing things together. So it felt kind of like the last vestige of like those days before the internet, when you didn't have any way of finding like this unless you bought the strategy guide, and still that didn't tell you that much except for like certain strategies to go through the game with. But sometimes you would not have what it takes in order to get through some of the special things in a game like Bloodborne. But I feel like, yeah, people are still uncovering stuff in that, so it's not as big of an achievement as it may seem. But the initial big achievement, I guess, was just to beat it on the hardest mode possible and get like those secrets, the umbilical cords in the game itself, and then you fight against this like other boss that comes out of, I can't really spoil where. But yeah, it was really fun to beat that thing, and it took like months just on the last boss itself, but I was eventually able to best that with the help of a person who came in. But yeah, it just feels like no matter what you achieve in that game, there's always something harder to do. So that was a really good achievement for me. But then you see all these people that we've been talking about in the last couple episodes, like that have found all these secret bosses or items in Chalice dungeons and stuff, and it puts things in perspective. But then again, that was one of my crowning moments too.
Yeah, I wouldn't, you shouldn't downplay that achievement at all. I mean, I think finishing any of those Soulsborne games is a huge achievement. The closest that I've gotten, I think Bloodborne, I clocked in about 17, 18 hours or so. I couldn't tell you exactly where I got. I remember, the name escapes me now. I remember it was a boss that I had heard a lot of bad things about leading up to it. And then I finished, I beat it in my first try. Oh no, you know what? I do remember the last thing I fought. It was these 3 witches.
Yeah, they were hard.
I don't know how far that was into the game, but that was the last major boss that I remember fighting. One of these days I want to play all the way through one of those games, but I tip my hat to anybody that finishes them, because, and again, I don't think that they're unfair, and I don't think that they're cheap, at least from what I've played. I've heard a lot of people say that, but I've always felt that it's more about just really paying attention to where you're going and what you're doing.
Right.
And not blindly running through areas.
For the most part, that's true. I mean, there's the occasional cheap kill in anything.
Right. Yeah. I've heard, maybe I just haven't gotten to some of that stuff where it's oh no, there's no way that you would get past this without dying on your first try, because, they intended for you to die right here because this guy was behind this partition that there's no way you could see behind or something like that.
Yeah.
But no, I find that to be amazing. And I've seen the boss that you're talking about. I watched it on a PlayStation Access video where they were talking about some of their greatest accomplishments, actually. And that's one that Rob Pearson, the host of PlayStation Access the Friday features, will talk about. And I've seen it. I was oh yeah, that looks hardcore.
Awesome. I mean, the guy right before it was tough enough. I'll say the same thing about God of War 3. It felt like I was at the end of the game, a boss or two before the end of the game. But yeah. I mean, for that one, for sure. Most people will only play the one boss, and then you got to play the other thing. It's just a nightmare.
It's almost like an episode of Dragon Ball Z where, they think that they've got the enemy licked, and then he powers up into a new form, and they're just sitting there gasping and just jaw dropping, and you're there's another one.
Yeah, exactly. So what's your number 2?
So my number 2, I had to look this up, and I don't know, I'm still not sure if this is right. There was this thing that I went to as a kid. It was this Nintendo tour bus type thing. It was like a big rig trailer, but they had games inside, and it was at a Walmart parking lot. And it was this event that they had where you could go, and I think there was new games that hadn't come out yet that you could play, but they also have this little tournament thing going on. Now, I was looking this up, and I thought it might have been the Nintendo World Championships, but it wasn't that. It definitely wasn't that. Mm-hmm. There was this other thing, and of course I closed the window now, but I think it was called the Nintendo Power Fest. So they are Nintendo apparently had this convention for fans called Power Fest in 1990. But then in 91, that one was in a convention center type thing. But in 91, they actually took it across the country, and they had these qualifying tournaments in 100 different cities. And then you went up to the next level and it was 10 cities. And then you finally went to Universal Studios for the finals. I think that's what this was. Whatever it was, you had to play, I think it was 3 different games, and you had to get certain scores in all of them. And I don't even really remember the games, because I feel like Mario Kart would have been one of them, but that's too early if we're talking 1991. So part of me says it was one of them was Super Mario Brothers 1. This is one of those times when I really wish that I had a perfect memory. That is the one super power that I've always wanted is perfect total recall.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've read an article that said that there are people who have that and it's really bad, but I'm such a nostalgia hound that I think I would pretty much dig it. But anyway, so I just remember going to this thing and doing the little, playing the games to do the tournament and being in the top of the group, which netted me a t-shirt. I didn't have good enough scores to go to the next level or whatever. I wasn't the top scorer of that day or whatever, but I was the top scorer in my group. And I was so damn proud of that. 11-year-old me just like pleased as punch that I was like good enough at video games to win a t-shirt. And it was, this was like a 90s ass t-shirt, Patrick. This was, it was orange and white. So it looked like a creamsicle, but it was like the orange was like pixelated. And it was like this pixelated orange and white, like slashy design. And then it had, I think, like the Nintendo logo for whatever this thing was. And I think it had the year. And I wore that sucker until I couldn't wear it anymore. And then I had it hung up on my wall.
Wow.
And then finally, like, I think many years later, I finally just like parted ways with it. I think I just like threw it out or something because it was like all ratty and everything. But I was so proud of that.
Thought you would have had like a ceremony when you like gave it away or whatever.
I probably did something. There was a time when I unloaded a whole bunch of stuff. Oh no, I take that back. So I had like my room plastered in the Nintendo Power posters because I had a subscription to Nintendo Power for years and I hadn't used the posters. So literally like my room was wallpapered in Nintendo Power posters at one point. Mm-hmm. And then when we opened our first store in San Antonio, our first Game Fellas, I donated all of those posters, and I feel like an idiot for doing this, by the way. So I donated all those posters to the store so that it'd have like video game related decor. And I think what also got thrown in there was like my lunar map and my Chrono Trigger map.
What?
So yeah, that wasn't, not my Chrono Trigger poster.
You're just happy to have a job.
Well, I'd been there for a while already. I just wanted to make sure the store looked, I wanted to make sure that store celebrated video games as much as our stores did back in Austin. And they didn't have anything. So I was like, here, you can, I've got tons of stuff. You can decorate the whole store with this stuff. But I regret that now, especially like the stuff that came with games. I don't know what I was thinking when I parted ways with those. I'll have to check my Chrono Trigger cartridge and be sure, because I'm pretty sure that's where that went, but it might still be in there. I don't know, but I want to say that I gave it away.
Well,
so how about you, Patrick? What's your next one for us?
We got to find a way to get those things back, but I don't know. That's going to be tough.
I could probably find I bet I could find a lot of Nintendo Power posters on eBay for not a ton of money, but it's more of like, I had those already. I don't want to pay for them again,
and finding specific ones that mean a lot to you. I guess it's not the exact one either. It's a copy.
Right.
Okay, so, the second one's another game that I talk about all the time, so not much to get into, but it's a really hard achievement that they show you at the end of each month, but usually it doesn't say like what percentage of people that you're in Hearthstone. And one month I got in the top 1% in the last 4
really?
years. Yeah. So that was really good because there's 72 million people that play it in any given month, and being in the top 1%, is out of 72 million is, top 7 million. That's still,
that's amazing.
I'm still not exactly sure what number I am, but I'm confident that in that month or the couple months around it, if I had grinded a little bit more, I would have been one of the top 500. It was really close. But once you get to the top, what?
I was going to say when you get into 500, that's when you're talking about the people who are actually going to tournaments and basically living off of Hearthstone.
Right. And in Hearthstone, it's just if you have the deck that's the meta at the time and you played at the right moment. So it's not that I don't know, talent driven, but it's a lot of I would say perseverance driven, because I met one of the people who was in tournaments like that at Hearthstone gatherings around Chicago, and he was good, but nothing special. I'm friends with him on the Hearthstone app. His name's Zero or something. Anyway, I forget. But I watched, or Frost, I don't remember. There's a few of them who are ranked in Legends that I've been friends with. And it's they're good in some moments, but it just depends on what card you have at what time and how much you're willing to play the game instead of doing other things in life. And so, yeah, like it was good to get that 1% gratification. But at the same time, I know people that were like top 200, and it just takes a lot of time. And I'm glad that I put that time into it at that moment, but also knew which packs or decks to play it that month. But I'm sad to say that it was Murloc Paladin driven. So it was a really annoying deck, but the really annoying decks work the best sometimes. And I do that sometimes to this day, but I'm still not getting back up to 1% every month. So it does take a lot of drive, a lot of resolve, and that's what I did one time.
And the good thing about not being in the 1% anymore is that you don't get protested by Occupy Hearthstone.
Right.
I'm sorry, guys.
Exactly. Percentage jokes.
No, but I think once again you're being far too like blasé about your accomplishments, because that's, you know, that's still like, sure, like sometimes you get like a lucky matchup and stuff like that, or, you know, you literally get like a perfect hand dealt to you, but that's not going to happen every time to get that far up. Like, a lot of that has to be just like knowing your deck really well and playing the cards expertly and, you know, knowing which combos to play and all of that stuff. So there's like, I feel like there's more skill to that than you're letting on.
Nice.
to get that high.
Well, I guess there's a reason I thought it was one of my better achievements too. But
yeah, that's probably the highest up of any type of leaderboard you've been, right?
Yeah, I was trying to think, because I've been pretty high up in like Pac-Man Championship Edition. I was like,
yeah, I was up there for a little bit, but it's also when the game was new, so it was easier to be up there.
Right. Yeah, then. I mean, when everybody's getting used to it versus like, you know, you don't play every single day like a lot of those people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to check. I don't really. I was really high up in Resogun for a while, and
I remember that.
Super Stardust. So those would probably be better achievements, but I wasn't exactly sure the numbers. And if it didn't stick with me like this did, I thought to myself, like, is that better in my mind, or is it just, you know, a random number that I got at a given moment? Maybe it did require more skill in the end, but there was no number I could really latch on to. So
yeah, for me, just real quick, the highest I've ever been on a leaderboard is number 1, but it was for that atrocious Xbox Live Arcade War of the Worlds game, because I think I was the only person who beat it for a while. So like, that's why I was number 1, because like, I honestly, I still don't know how I finished that game, Patrick, because it was one of those things where you fail 100 times and then succeed doing the exact same thing that you did the other 100 times. And it's just the game saying, well, no, I guess you succeed now. It's that type of thing. Like,
it sucks.
And the only reason I finished it is because, you know, it was one of the first reviews I did for Pixelbit, and I was like, you gotta finish every game to review it. And I mean, I still kind of believe that, but at some point, you know, at certain games, it's like, you know, at a certain point, it's like, if you haven't finished it, but you still know, like,
what to say.
No matter how good it gets, like, in the last, like, third or whatever, or 10%, that it's not going to change your opinion on the other 2/3 or 90% that you've already played.
Yeah, the mechanics aren't going to change that much either.
Yeah. So I would like to log in. I mean, obviously it's not backwards compatible, so I'd have to, like, hook up my 360, but I would be curious to see where I sit to this day, because I'm sure it didn't sell well to begin with, and it's also just, like, ridiculously hard. So I can only imagine that the people that are on there are like the most masochistic of achievement hunters.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes that's why we play those like leaderboard type games. You're just getting like one position higher, and you don't exactly know the weight of your intense practice and over trials.
Not to make another Dragon Ball reference in the same episode, but it's almost like, you know, you're training with weighted clothing, and then all of a sudden you take it off and you realize how fast and light you are, and you're like, oh, I'm way over prepared for this.
Yeah. My dad used to say it was literal insanity when you do the same level over and over again for like a slightly higher score. He's like, you're just you're doing the same thing expecting a different outcome. That's literal insanity.
Yeah, but with video games, that's not the case, because with video games, you never know if the physics aren't working quite right, or if there's a glitch, or, you know, if you're just not doing it exactly the way it's supposed to be. I mean, you know, I've played plenty of games.
Spoken like an insane man.
Yeah, well, no, it's like I remember, okay, Tomb Raider Underworld. I missed this jump like 30 times, and I finally like went to YouTube to see how this jump was done, and they did the exact same thing that I did. And I was like, so what the hell's wrong with this? And then I went back to the game and made the jump on my first try. And it's like, I literally didn't change anything, but yeah. It was like, games have taught, you know, games are like the one exception to that rule.
Right. I don't think that when people defined insanity, they knew about video games.
Yeah.
And they're probably playing that same level too many times to change the definition at this point.
Guess we're back to me for number one.
Yeah,
right?
Hit them up one more time.
All right. So, like I said, my number one is kind of tied to my number three. And I know I've never told this story on the show before. And I talk about my store Game Fellas a lot because it was like the most important time in my life. And I say that with no hyperbole. But I've never told the story about how I came into possession in quotes, of my own store. So Game Fellas was owned by two people. There was Teresa and Paul. They started this business together, but Teresa wanted to go further than Paul did. He just wanted his original store. She was the one who wanted to expand. I worked under Teresa's stores for the longest time. Well, down the road, Paul had opened up a second store with one of his former employees who wanted to kind of strike out on his own. And so they had a store at Lakeline. We're talking November, like I'm saying mid-November of 2000. The guy who was in business with Paul on this store and his entire staff just walk out. Don't even tell us that they're leaving. They just left. Right? And so now we have this empty store. Well, it's not empty. I mean, all the stuff was still there, but now we have this store with like nobody to man it. And it's about to be the holiday season, right? The busiest time of the year. So Teresa and my manager, Ben, they stationed me out there with Nelson, who was a guy who worked at one of our smaller little Pokemon related stores. And Patrick, this place was a dump. It angered me when I saw how they organized their store. Like I have pictures of how it was just like piles of junk everywhere. You couldn't tell what was defective and what was working. Wow. Nothing, like none of the used consoles said if they had been tested or cleaned. Most of them hadn't been, especially not cleaned. Everything was just in disarray. Like it was awful. And I was miserable for those first few months working there. Cause, you know, you're talking, it's Christmas season. It's super busy. I'm having to deal with this garbage store, you know, and I'm also working with like only one other person. We got like a seasonal guy to help for a little bit, but so you're talking two people manning this store for, you know, mall hour or sorry, for extended Christmas hours, mind you. It was rough, but the thing that I'm most proud of, I consider it gaming related because it was a video game store, was turning that store around and not only organizing it and cleaning it and getting it to become like the most efficient store that we had, but tripling the sales. And I don't take full responsibility for that, obviously. I was very lucky that I ended up with an amazing team. And it took a while to get there. We had like a couple people who were really good and then they left, or, you know, some people that just didn't work out. But eventually, you know, it was Nelson, Jeff, Mark, Ryan, Blake, and Adrian. They were like the core group that really like pulled that store together and made it into this like just amazing place to work. It was so fucking fun to work there. And Jack was one of those too, but Jack, he was kind of one of the earlier guys, and so he didn't really get to see the fruits of his labor. He was our best salesman ever, and he never got to see what the store turned into. But, you know, like I said, making the tournaments happen and like the way we would do the signage. Mark was a really cool artist, and so was Jeff, so they would do our flyers. Ryan was this guy who we called MacGyver because he could just like, or like he could make stuff out of like cardboard and spare parts that was like the coolest thing ever. Like he made this revolving Pocky sign out of a Sega Saturn disk drive and a section of a PlayStation controller. So you would like press the button on the PlayStation controller to make the Pocky, sign spin.
What's a Pocky sign?
And that was like Pocky, like the Japanese snack?
No.
They're like the little, like crispy wafer. They're not wafers. They're like those little chocolate covered sticks.
Yeah,
basically.
stick cylinder things.
Yeah, and we used to sell Pocky, but like he made this really cool sign and it spun. And like I said, it harvested out of parts. And at one point we did this tournament called the Wheel of Fate, where it was like we had this giant wheel that they built, and every wedge on the wheel was a random fighting game, and you would press the button and the thing would spin, and then you would press it again and it would land on a game, and that's what you had to play for that round. And Ryan built that by himself, and it was like just the coolest thing. Like my only regret about that store is that I didn't take like 100 times more pictures than I did, because I did a lot of cool things when I was at Game Fellas, but that store was the pinnacle of that. And it's still like one of my greatest, not just gaming accomplishments, but just accomplishments in life.
Yeah, right.
I really, really, really miss like working that store.
That's a big deal in life, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, wasn't our fault. Like, when we went out of business, it wasn't my store's fault. I'll just say that. But, you know, there were a lot of mistakes that were made. What's that?
Look good at the end too?
Oh, yeah. Because we actually did well enough that, Teresa got us a custom built spot next door. Because the original store was like kind of this like slapped together, like hodgepodge of store fixtures, and it had poor lighting and all this stuff. So we moved into a store that was like more than twice the size, painted in the store colors with like new racks and, new shelving. And it was the most beautiful, like independent video game store I've seen to this day. So yeah. Oh no, I'm going to cry. If I could go back in time, I'd go back there.
But then some other stores didn't sell enough.
It was a lot of things. I think the biggest one is that we expanded too far. We probably shouldn't have expanded into San Antonio. But also just the fact that the market changed so much, because when I started, it was hard to find video games, right? Like you couldn't go everywhere to buy video games.
Yeah.
It was specifically like a couple toy stores, you know, Best Buy if you had one, Walmart, but Walmart had a terrible selection. You know, that was about it. Toys R Us, I guess, but Toys R Us's prices were bad. So you couldn't find places like ours. But then eventually, like, games became ubiquitous and they were just everywhere and they were cheaper. And yeah, we had the better customer service and we gave like amazing deals and store credit and all that stuff. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's kind of hard to compete with a store that gets like, you know, 10,000 copies of a game, and they're also like making a much bigger profit on each copy of the game, because that was another thing, is the new game profit margins were very low, when you factor in like wholesale costs and then the cut that the mall takes and all that good stuff. Like not making the money that you would think you would make off of a brand new video game, when you're independent.
Yeah. Well, when you're just a seller.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, you know, if you're not in bulk, like a Walmart or a Best Buy, where I'm sure their costs on those games are probably like 50% or so, where our costs, like for like a $49.99 game, like we were probably paying like $37 to $40. So, you know, it's not a lot of markup.
Yeah, you gotta sell like all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Plus you gotta factor in like just people sitting around when no one's buying stuff.
That, yeah. And then if you know, and then sometimes you take a swing on a game that you think is going to do really well, and then it just sits there. State of emergency.
Yeah, that sucks if like one game matters that much to like the store. You know, you gotta be more of a conglomerate where you can just take chances like that all the time.
Yeah.
Well, my number one's kind of the same, where it's not like an actual platinum trophy or anything that I got. I thought to myself, maybe I should say the day that I got more than one platinum trophy in one day, but I like engineered that, you know, getting the Uncharted 2 and the Ratchet and Clank 1, and there's like one more that I got on the same day, but those those took months or like even a year to get up to. And then once I got to that point, it was like, I don't really care about that specific trophy that much anymore as the journey. And one place where like the journey comes together with like the achievement itself was when I like met my video game crew, I guess you would call it. And we were all searching for a team to play Destiny with, and by the end of like the second or the first expansion, I guess, the second big raid, a lot of us were like getting angry and stuff because the difficulty would be so hard. And one of the players like in our team wasn't good enough to complete it on hard mode, really. So like, I don't know, as like the person who was giving the orders out the most, I guess this was a tough thing to do, but also like it was the reason we were able to beat Crota on hard mode. I had to be like, hey, can we try this without you for like one or two tries after like failing for a couple days? And then we beat it in like the second or third try with like a new sixth person. So like, I guess it was the day that I learned how to be a manager.
Right. Take command.
Yeah, but like I knew exactly where everybody was supposed to go, and like he wasn't going there and wasn't shooting enough headshots quick enough, so we needed someone with better aim who would listen as well. And yeah, that dude is a rogue and he's funny to be around, but in that case we needed someone else on the team, and we got that shiny green armor that everybody was talking about at the time at the same moment. So, I mean, I got, I guess, the big achievement from Destiny. Then also, after that, realized how much, like, I didn't want to keep doing that. Because that's all I got from, hundreds of hours of playing. But I still saw, even in this last week, like a kid that I work with who is looking up videos playing Destiny 2. So there's still people doing those strikes every week.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's like Diablo 3 or anything like that, or if you have a fun enough gameplay loop, and you're enjoying it, that's enough, especially with them, like, I guess, cause they've been adding, I guess, like, enough stuff here and there in addition to the expansions. But, from what I understand, they've been adding enough just throughout that it's kept people invested that are, the ones that are playing every day, not the ones who, only come back for the expansions and then play it, finish the expansion and then move on.
Right.
I think that's cool. Like, you say, like, that's all you got after hundreds of hours, but you also got hundreds of hours of enjoyment out of it. So
brought
it's not
us closer than anything ever would again so far.
Yeah.
Except for a game maybe that just came out this holiday season, which we'll talk about in the next segment.
Yeah. Oh, I'm excited for Consumption Junction. I've got some questions for you.
Yeah, some shit went down.
Fit as a fiddle, ready for love. I can jump over the moon up above. Fit as a fiddle and ready for love. Haven't a worry, haven't a care. Feel like a feather that's floating on air. Fit as a fiddle and ready for love. Soon the church bells will be ringing, and a march with ma and pa. How the church bells will be ringing, with a hey nonny nonny and a ha-cha-cha. Hi diddle diddle, my baby's okay. Ask me a riddle, and what did she say? Fit as a fiddle and ready for love.
Yeah, I think that's it for us. We have a few over at pixelbit.com.
Cool.
First up is Joey, aka Superstep, who says, first up is beating enough kids at Tekken 3 in an arcade by mashing buttons with Yoshimitsu that one of them actually got mad I was beating everyone by mashing buttons with Yoshimitsu. He would skill my ass.
I've been on the other side of that, and I know how painful it is.
Yeah, man. Like, I remember, I forget what game I was playing. I want to say it might have been a Street Fighter, or it might have been Soul Blade in the arcade. Well, Soul Edge, sorry. But it was one of those things where I was playing, like I was a teenager at this point, older teenager. And I was playing a full, kid, probably like 8 or 9 years old. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to let this kid, like, I'm going to go easy on him because he's just a kid. I remember how it was. And then he annihilated me just by slamming on buttons. I was so upset. I was like, you're not even playing the game right.
And you still figured out how to win. I mean, I literally do that sometimes with Yoshimitsu too, though.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that that's almost a strategy in and of itself, because you're playing so differently from how the game is supposed to be played that, someone who's a seasoned veteran doesn't know how to cope, right? So that's almost like, it's like the secret win sauce. It's like, just, do the thing that you're not supposed to do.
Exactly, but you're trying to do it. Sometimes that even happens to me playing like a grandmaster in chess or something like that. Or, not grandmaster, but however good my friends are that play it all the time. When I beat them, they'll be like, where'd you learn that move? And I'm like, I don't know, I just took this one other move that I saw you make and applied it to a different one of the pieces. And they're like, oh shit. I was like, well, I guess that's not how you're supposed to do it, but I just applied what I learned that way. And it's because I didn't read anything else and that I was able to win that time. But I mean, that can happen in all sorts of really complicated games where the grandmasters are not used to like this noob coming in with this new style, and that can take over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. These aren't our ways. Well, maybe your ways need to change. Next up, Superstep says, finally getting platinum in Arkham Knight after months of only missing the Brutality 101 trophy. And Patrick, I looked this one up. This is the one where you have to do 15 different moves in the same combo.
Oh, wow.
Which means you have to do everything in the combo. Which, there's 15 moves is a lot just by itself, but keeping in mind that in the Batman games, you have to keep up a rhythm. So if you drop a button press at any time, that ends the combo. If you repeat a move, like let's say you repeat a finisher, but it's not the other finisher you needed to do, well, and you've just wasted a finisher, which means that you have to spend longer in that combo to build up that meter in order to do the move that you meant to do. And also keeping track, you also have to have like enough enemies to do this on. Mm-hmm. And, you need to be sure that you're keeping track of those 15 moves, that you've done them. So well done. Cause holy crap, like, there's no way that I could do that. Absolutely not. No matter how much I practice, there's no way. And we'll talk about something similar in Consumption Junction for my game.
That reminds me of a friend who told me that he dodged the lightning 200 times or whatever in Final Fantasy X in the last couple of weeks. I'm like, no one in their right mind should have done that. It's like, what moves there are to do. There's no reason exactly to do all them. I guess there is a reason, but there's no reason to put somebody through that pain.
Even dodging it 10 times should have, that's still, a ridiculous task on that game. So doing it the 200 times is just evil. And, obviously on the HD remasters, you get I think a gold trophy for that. But it's also the only way that you get, I believe it's Lulu's ultimate weapon. So
yeah,
there's reasons, but man, I can't.
Yeah, it takes the whole afternoon, and you regularly screw up. He said when you're really close, because you're like, oh, it's been a while now. I think I'm almost there.
Apparently, our friend from Square Roots, John Brandon, got 180, and then he failed, and that's got to be the worst when you're that close. That would actually bring us to Super Steps number 3, which is having a more and more zen-like reaction to frustrating or difficult video games. Joey, where were you when I was playing Resident Evil 7?
Mm-hmm.
Because I would like to learn. Because I need to do more of that. I'm not a rage guy. I mean, I've got a temper. I don't rage at video games like I used to. Usually it's more of just oh, come on! When something has happened.
I have some maniacal laughter.
Yeah, that's one. My new one now that I know more about video games is just who thought this was a good idea? Who okayed this design? Who said this is the way that this should go?
Yeah. I want to talk to this person right now.
Yeah. Let's see. Next up is San Andreas, who says, number 1, beating the original Legend of Zelda before my friends did. And damn, yeah.
That's hard to beat.
That is hard to beat. That's hard to beat now. But the funny thing is that's one of the only Zelda games I have finished, but that's only because of Nintendo Power and friends helping.
That's fun.
Let's see. His number 2 is my first ever playthrough of Final Fantasy VI. I was fighting Atma Weapon, the last boss of the World of Balance. He wiped out all of my party members except Mog, who was stuck in dance mode where you can't control him. I went off and made a sandwich figuring I was screwed and not happy about it because it took so long to get there. I get back after eating my sandwich and Mog is doing a victory dance. I'd won the battle. I'm not sure if you can really count that as a you achievement, San Andreas, but I'll allow it because that's just kind of badass. That's more of a Mog achievement. Ooh, scary. And then lastly, he says, beating Dragon Quest VIII with my wife, who I just married at the time. We played together along with my stepdaughter. That's awesome.
Wow.
That's like a heartwarming thing.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. You know, Angelo famously played Dragon Quest IX with his wife, and she ended up putting way more hours into that game than he did. Like, we're talking hundreds upon hundreds of hours, and she didn't even play, like, she wasn't even a gamer. And I always thought that was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Something about Dragon Quest and, couples.
Yeah, I didn't realize Dragon Quest had that kind of sway.
Yeah. It's just so charming. It's just, I really am looking forward to going through Dragon Quest XI. I just don't know when that's coming in because that's like another 80 plus hour odyssey on top of the 80 plus hour odyssey that I just finished.
Yeah.
Let's see. Tyrone Swift, he says, that was Justin who was on last episode, who people seem to have really enjoyed having on, despite how long the episode was. He says, I admit to not being much of an achievement hunter when it comes to games, but I do have some things that come to mind here. Number 3, that time I beat Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game, when I was like 5 years old. Yeah, sure, maybe I went to a theater during their grand opening and they were giving out free arcade games to people. And sure, maybe I was the weakest link among all the teenage kids who I was teaming up with at the time. But damn it, I beat that game and nobody else I knew had. I remember going to friends' houses and describing the end levels to them when we would die on the 3rd stage. Did that make me an asshole? Possibly. But I thought I was pretty cool. I don't think that made you an asshole because, like, the home version was also different. So, like, it didn't have, I don't think it had, oh, I take that back. The home version had 2 extra levels, but it had all the levels from the arcade. But still, you were just giving your friends a taste of what was to come. Yeah. If you finally.
Whenever I would say shit like that about like Battletoads or something, my friends would like not believe me because when you play Battletoads, obviously it gets way harder when you're doing it 2 players at one point. But yeah, they would just like be like, no way, you didn't get past this. If we couldn't get past this together, you didn't do this on your own. So I don't know if it's quite an asshole, but it's more like, what?
Patrick, we've talked about this in the past. Yeah. Battletoads ends at level 3. There's only 3 levels of that game, Patrick. Yeah, okay. Whatever you saw was just a dream.
No, but there's one part. I didn't say it was level 3 or not this time.
No, but you have intimated that there is more to that game, and there is not, Patrick. It's just 3 levels. And it's not even 3 complete levels. It's 2 levels, and then you're on the jet skis, and then partway through, you just die, and then that's the end of the game.
Oh, okay.
No, I kid because I think I actually did end up finding like a warp zone to the snow level. And I think I did that on my own, actually. Well, that might have been a Nintendo Power trick.
That was confusing me.
That was a Nintendo Power trick. I discovered a warp zone on my own in the LJN Wolverine game, which I'm not proud of, but it's the only time that I ever discovered anything like that on my own. That game was terrible. As you can imagine, it was LJN, but.
Yeah, that confused me for a minute.
I should fire up the rare replay on Xbox and see if I'd be better at Battletoads now.
I'm sure
that I'm older, but I don't think I would be. I still don't think I can get past level 3.
They probably make it so you can.
You can rewind on that game, so I could at least like practice without like get the timing right. But for me, it was like it wasn't even so much timing as it was like it just seemed like some of those jumps didn't register. You know, just like I'm positive that I made that jump, but this game is telling me that I did not.
Yeah.
Justin's number 2. I caught all 151 of the original Pokemon before it was a cool thing to do. I got Pokemon Blue and Red, a Link cable, and a brand new Game Boy Color for my birthday one year. Ooh, fancy. And proceeded to play both games until I had caught them all. This was a little before Pokemon really blew up in the States, which basically made me a video game hipster at the time. And yes, I realized I said 151 Pokemon. I eventually convinced somebody to buy me a Game Shark so that I could have Mew as well. After that, I hung up my Pokemon hat for good because it got too cool. And as a video game hipster that I was not about that life anymore.
Oh, wow.
I can appreciate that. You did the thing, and you walked off into the sunset.
Nobody I knew had, like, the link cable except, like, one person, and even that person, like, didn't get all 150, not even the 151st one. And we heard about 151st one without, like, the internet and stuff somehow. But, like, for some reason it was always a myth, and I'm not sure how any of us heard of it in the first place.
I mean, magazines, schoolyard talk. There were all sorts of video game related rumors when I was a kid, around that age. Especially, like, I mean, the Mortal Kombat games were infamous for that, where you could definitely pick out which of your friends were liars by what they told you about what was in Mortal Kombat 2 and 3.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and then the funny thing about Pokemon for me was that the Game Boy was dead in the United States. Like, I remember walking into Game Fellas, like, before I started working there, and they had, like, a brand new game. It was Tamagotchi for the Game Boy. And I was like, oh, how cute. They still make Game Boy games. That's silly. Cause, like, it was, nobody cared. And then Pokemon came out, and all of a sudden the Game Boy was the hottest shit again. And we're talking about this, like, ancient portable device.
Yeah. Well, as far as collecting things, I was thinking about, like, is it one of your top goals if it's, like, perseverance based? And I ended up not putting either of the ones that I would have in if they were based on perseverance. But, like, what do you think about gathering all the treasures in one of the Uncharted games, which I've done before? And that's pretty tough to do, but not as tough now with, like, the internet. And for the most part, I tried to do it on my own, but I think I looked a little bit at the internet. But one place where I really did do it on my own, and, like, nobody's really gotten all 50 of these, is, like, in Pixel Junk Eden, you're supposed to get 50 seeds, and most people don't get that because you only need, like, 35 or something to beat the game. But then you just go back and you're in a really awesome Zen state, which I was, and then I ended up getting them all, and it was, like, less than a percentage point at the time of people that had all the seeds, and I don't know what possessed me to do it in my right mind, but I thought maybe something would, like, open up afterwards, and I was always thinking maybe I'll find this super secret thing at the end that no one else has found yet, which is, like, also why I continued to play side missions in Metal Gear Solid 5, and that was a mistake, but like, yeah.
The collectathon ones I'm of two minds about. Like, sometimes I just can't be bothered. If I really love the game enough, I'll try to get all that stuff, and I'll usually try to get it on my own. But it depends if there's just too many of them, like, I'm just not going to bother. Like, I think there was, like, 1,000 light shards that you could find in Prince of Persia 2008, and I got, like, 750 of them or something like that, and I was like, I can't. Like, I was trying. Like, I that was when I was still, like, really hunting achievements in a hardcore way, and I was like, I'm going to get all of the ones on this game because I love it so much. And then I was like, yeah, no, like, there's just too much. And there was also, like, some speed running ones where you had to get from, like, this area to this area in X number of time, and I just, like, couldn't do it. And I was like, it's going to take me way too much time to, like, nail this routine. And there's other games to play.
Yeah. When we were young and thought we were going to get all the achievements for everything.
Yeah, I mean, some of them are just, like, way too hard.
Some of them are just like, why are they achievements? I do not enjoy trying to do this.
Yeah. I mean, famously, like, Final Fantasy XI had, like, some of the hardest achievements on the 360, period. And one of them was, like, get to level 75 on every job. And that is a monumental task. Well, I mean, not now, but back then, and obviously you can't do it now because they closed the console servers. But when the console servers were up, that was a monumental task.
That's another kind of achievement that's funny, and you can't really say how difficult that is because you didn't know it beforehand. But, like, some achievements, like, you can't get in this lifetime anymore because, like, servers don't exist anymore and you can't go on multiplayer. Yep. And I'm like, is that really hard to do, or was that just lucky? I guess it's just lucky.
I mean, it depends. Like, I know there were those ones, like, on, I think, like, NBA Live and stuff like that, where you had to be online with, like, this many thousand people at the same time, and that was just, like, a pure luck of the draw. Yeah. And I think if you didn't play it in, like, the first month or so, like, it was very hard to get that achievement because the player base would shrink.
Yeah, there's, like, one for, I think it was FIFA or something, where you had to beat people who made the game, and, like, how are you ever going to get on a server with somebody who made the game if you're not, like, in California? So, I don't know.
Well, and those, I don't know about that one, but usually those were like viral achievements where it was like beat someone who was a developer on the game or someone who has this achievement. So eventually, like, it would propagate and then you would get it. Cause I definitely have a couple of those. I think I have one from like Halo 3 or something. And I definitely wasn't playing with a developer. It was just like, I play with somebody that had it.
Yeah,
So
I've seen that too. That's pretty cool. But also just luck.
Tyrone's number 1 is a fun one. He says, so I talked a bit on the show about how I think the new WWE games are bad, and they are, but I'm part of the problem and I still buy them every year. Mainly because I love the creative character stuff on those games. Years ago, I started uploading some of the things I had put together out of boredom, and people randomly downloaded some of them. I even started to develop a kind of cult fan base for some of my stuff. Turns out I'm really good at making female wrestlers. Crazy, right? I mean, who'd have thunk a guy who idolizes Chun-Li could understand some of the finer points of women's wrestling fashion? Last year, I had over 25,000 people download one of my creations, and that was pretty wild. There's a YouTube video of a YouTube man asking his audience who my made-up wrestler is because he's never heard of them on the indie scene. So if anyone asks, Roxanne Rolston definitely came to your town and put on a great match, okay? That is awesome.
Oh my god. It's crazy.
The only thing I have, and I think I've told this story on the show before, but, you know, I got really into the creator wrestler stuff on, like, the older SmackDown games. Mm-hmm. And I think it was SmackDown Just Bring It. Like what I would do is I would create all these crazy characters, and then I would like just put a battle royal on one of our demo stations just to watch them fight. Because you just put everybody on AI and see who comes out on top. And so at one point I think it was like Paul Phoenix, Zangief, Little Mac, Soda Popinski, and I don't remember who the other two were. And they were just like all in the ring. And these two customers were just like watching the thing, and they were like, they've got Zangief in there with Paul Phoenix? And he's like, yeah, they don't even care about copyright anymore. They just like steal shit from people. And I was so pleased with myself because they legit thought that this was like part of the game.
That's awesome.
Admittedly, they were really good looking, Paul Phoenix and Zangief. Like they were legit.
I bet Paul Phoenix had those polygons going on. It looked like his hair.
Oh yeah, he had that full on, 6 foot flat top going on. That's the whole reason that I made him, because I was like, oh, they've got the hair in here. I'll go ahead and make Paul Phoenix.
Nice. The only thing I've made that I got a lot of people to download was like a Mod Nation Racers creation that I got over 1,000, I think. But there was like a few that I had that were, in the hundreds and stuff like that. And I was like, why didn't this one, get more? And then like a couple weeks later, you'd see somebody else put basically the same thing remixed, and they got a shit ton of people to like download it. I'm like, that's no fair. Like it's them remixing me or something like that. Like one remix that I did that was pretty cool though, that got a lot of downloads, was the BP oil spill car. Someone did a BP car, and then I put oil all around it.
Nice. Then that was also topical.
Yeah, that was at the time. In that style.
Next up is Transmet2033, who says, I'm not sure if this is what you're looking for. I'm going to have to pull out the cartridge and see if I can see what my record was, but I played F-Zero X's Death Race mode endlessly. I got my record down to a point that I had no idea how else to shave off time. I was quite proud of it. I also spent quite some time trying to shave off my time in Metroid Fusion down to 75 minutes. I got close, but had issues shaving off the last 90 seconds. Dude, just like Patrick, I think you were downplaying your achievement there.
Him severely
Transmet.
For a long speed run like that to bring it down that much. Oh, Jesus.
Hell yeah, man. That's, and Mike was all like, I can't believe that you are stopping on Resident Evil after just barely cracking the 3-hour mark. And it's like, yeah, but the amount of time that it would take to get it down to like the hour 20 something mark is like ridiculous. Like, I'm sure Transmet spent a lot of time getting Metroid Fusion down under 75 minutes. And that is amazing. Once again, bravo.
Yeah, this is why I downplay things, because then shit like that happens.
I am but an egg. Let's see. Last up on Pixelbit comes from Extrian. Number 3, beating the Souls series shieldless. That is some nice alliteration there, my friend. He says, I'm no pro, but the fact that I was able to beat the Souls series without a shield is one thing I'm proud of. It really helped me actually get good at this game because it forced me to learn how to anticipate attacks and roll. I also didn't rely on parrying at all, which is another reason why I'm so proud of this. Now, Patrick, this is one that I wonder if you'd be able to do because you came into the series with Bloodborne, which doesn't have shields at all. So I'm wondering if this would be a thing where if you go into the Dark Souls series where you're like, Yeah, I don't want to use shields because it just
I've
feels
seen
weird.
people using shields all the time. I'm like, actually, I have to do that in God of War, and it's taken me out of my style, which is never to shield. I'm long distance magic type.
Oh yeah, okay. So for me on most of these games, I tend to roll a lot, but it's only because the blocking always seems to like take up so much stamina that doesn't seem worth it. So I usually just end up rolling.
Yeah,
and I also don't know how to parry.
You got to roll a lot, and
the timing on that
in Bloodborne too. But you have to be close quarters really to, finish some of these bosses. But just seeing like even in Chalice Dungeons recently, them joking about Souls games. There's like one like inflated baby that has like this huge bulb in the middle of themselves. It's like a huge belly or something that like rolls at you, and it's supposed to be a dig at Souls games that are just like always rolling to attack you, or like you're rolling to attack them. That kind of game's funny, but God of War doesn't let you get away with that. You can roll into like a lot of attacks, and I've died a lot of the time because like my tactics that work in a Bloodborne don't work in that game. It's more parry based, which is different for me.
Yeah. You all also just revealed one of the deals you got.
We'll
get to it. No. It's cool. I'm just curious to find out what all you picked up.
It had to.
We'll get there in due course. Next up from X3 is getting the Untouchable medal in Halo 3. He says, Halo was the one series I was great at. It was something I feel like I could have played professionally if I was the type to play one game for years. But he says, my favorite moment is also bittersweet. I was jumping back into it after weeks of not playing. I hit a Lone Wolves ranked match, which is everyone for themselves, and completely dominated. I was 5 kills away from winning the match / getting the medal when someone quit and the game had to find a new host. The game continued, but it stopped registering my streak. I got the last 5 kills and went 25-0, but didn't get the satisfying announcer to say, untouchable, despite that I knew what I had accomplished and felt invincible. And that is a bummer.
That's like hitting a hole in one and no one sees it.
Yeah, man. Like, there was this one achievement on Witcher 3 that I was trying really hard to get. It was the one where you have to, complete a contract without using any potions, oils, or magic. And I had tried it multiple times, but apparently, like, it won't pop if you had previously put oil on your blade, because somehow the game still thinks of that blade as having oil, even if all the charges have been used. So I had to like specifically get like a brand new sword that had never been oiled, and then specifically like fight this enemy. And then when I finally did it, the achievement didn't actually like flash up on the screen. I got it, but I didn't get that satisfying loop. And I was like, well, what was that even for?
But it unlocked eventually?
My dopamine. Yeah, it unlocked, but I just didn't get the actual achievement, like, animation or sound effect. So it's like, without that, it's just worthless.
Does it take a screenshot on Xbox 360 or Xbox One of the moment?
No, it doesn't.
Ooh,
no.
Yeah, you need a PlayStation.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll get to that when we talk about, our next episode about our State of the Generation. Cause I definitely have some thoughts about the screen sharing or the, screenshot stuff. Cause I love sharing some screenshots. Nope. Last up from X-Frean, Beating the Witness. He says, The Witness isn't the hardest game I've ever played, but it's definitely the most satisfying I've ever completed. Many have compared it to learning a new language, and that isn't far off. Taking pen, paper, graph paper, Tetris-shaped cutouts, pictures, and combining them to solve puzzles was unlike anything I've ever played. I would take puzzles to work and try to solve them for when I play next. I'd look around the real world and see puzzles that needed to be solved. The Witness effect? I was actually a bit sad to have finished The Witness because I knew I'd never have that experience again. This game isn't for everyone, but for those it is for, you will have an unforgettable experience unlike anything other in gaming. That's one that I'm surprised you haven't picked up, Patrick.
Yeah, I mean, I like it, the way that it looks. I'm still finishing up the Talus effect in terms of games like that. I feel it's similar. And kudos to him. I want to play that game as well, but it's so much easier to play these other games where I know their formulas.
Right. I know it's not a game for me because I couldn't even like completely finish Braid. Like I got like the bad ending in Braid, but I couldn't find all of the puzzle pieces to get the good ending. Or not, sorry, the true ending. Because the true ending is not a good ending. But, so yeah, Jonathan Blow is too smart for me. And I'm willing to admit that. We have one over at Twitter from Xavier Krieger, who's on Twitter at Cadus Bane. His number 3, turn my girlfriend onto the joy of gaming using Until Dawn. Excellent. Nice. We both did that.
Yeah, we did that with a girl each.
Yeah. That is one of the best girlfriend games, I think.
Yeah.
Number 2, when I managed a local game shop, my favorite thing was convincing someone to try a new game and then having them come back and tell me how it was one of their favorites, and they were buying all the entries in the series. I love that too. That's, it's just so, it's so satisfying. It's like, tell me what you like. And then based on that, I'm going to select these 3 games and you can choose from there. Hopefully they come back and tell you how much they enjoyed it. And then number 1, I'm very jealous of Xavier for this. He says, I worked at an arcade for a while and I played the Simpsons arcade game after close every day. And I got to the point where I could beat it on a single dollar. I always wish I could have worked in an arcade.
How can you do that? I feel like you have to get hit.
Well, that's why he said $1. Well, I guess maybe it was just $1 per play then. I'm curious how much the game was to play then. Cause like, I got to the point where I could beat Golden Axe in a quarter, but, you know, yeah, I don't know. I wonder how many times he actually continued on that $1.
Yeah, that's tough.
Cause like I played, the arcade version, like the arcade port of Ninja Turtles on Xbox Live Arcade, and I could never, like my friend and I tried it on Xbox Live. We were never able to beat it because it actually limited your continues and, couldn't do it. Like we got really close a couple times. We just couldn't beat that game.
It's only 2 buttons like that, like jump and kick. It really brings the margin of error down. And when you after you hit them, you kind of fall down to where they're going to hit you and you don't have any time to move out of the way. It's like, I feel like it's supposed to do that to eat up more quarters. And when I beat that game, I felt like I used more like $3 or $4, $5, something like that.
Oh, easy. Yeah.
But yeah, I got a couple that we got from the Discord as well that I could read.
Yeah.
So from our Hexus, we had, Oh yeah, the deadline is tonight. I could throw some out there. So he said, number 1, in high school, I ran a game group for lunch in my dad's back room. Had a guy Peacock saying he was good at Soul Calibur 2, so I challenged him to a match. It was a room full of nerds watching this new guy walk in. I set up the game and picked Link, and my weapon of choice, the butterfly net. The match started, and you heard the screams of Link and the thunk of the joke weapon smacking Nightmare around. It ended with me spanking him, and him never talking about it after the fact. I love that. That's almost why I put beating my one friend in Madden, because he was talking about how anybody could beat him. And when you get that moment where you're like, I know I can beat him. And then when you beat him multiple times in a row, pretty easily. Oh, it's so good.
I real quick, that reminds me of another Game Fellas story. I've been very, nostalgic about Game Fellas lately. So we had an import copy of Tekken 3 for PlayStation in the store. And Danny Morgan, we actually had him on the show, I think last year, or maybe, yeah, I think it was last year. But he loved Tekken 3. He always played it at the arcade and everything. He loved using, Zheng. I don't remember the young Chinese girl. I forget her name. I get her confused with the character from Soul Blade. But he was talking all this smack about how good he was and everything. And we were all playing the game after work, and it was Danny versus my manager, Ben. And Ben won. He beat him. And he just throws it on the controller. He's like, I own you! I own you! And Danny was just shaking his head. Didn't know what to say. And Ben was just he was like, that's it! I'm undefeated! I'm the champion! I'm never playing this again! And we talked about that for years after the fact. The end.
Well, pretty cool story there, Julian.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
Anyway, our Hexus said for number 2, speaking of the news of Way Forward, which, okay, I got to meet Jake Kaufman and managed to get a pic with him. He even signed the game I brought with me that he worked on, and that's pretty cool. They worked on Shantae and I guess Marvel Puzzle Quest.
Double Dragon Neon, dude. Yep. I actually had contacted Jake Kaufman trying to see if he'd what his rate was for doing a theme song for the show, but he never got back to me. Because his music is just so up, it's in our wheelhouse, and I would love that, but never heard anything. I was probably aiming too high there.
Yeah, we gotta make an unknown known, I guess, or just do it ourselves. There are some lyrics floating around.
Yes, there are.
All right, so then we got one more over at Discord. That was Pixel JA today, who said, I got one, also Link related. In Majora's Mask, I got the twin mold worm boss after playing through the Stone Tower Temple for a good chunk of time. Link is supposed to defeat Twin Mold by wearing the Giant's Mask and striking their tail with a sword, but you need magic to power the mask. After managing to defeat one of the worms, I still had to take down the other one, but I ran out of magic and had no refills available. Despite desperate not having to play through the whole damn temple again, I know your plight, and other temples, I did a Hail Mary and lobbed a bomb at him. It exploded just as he was burrowing back into the ground, and the impact registered on the tail and killed the creature. That was a 1 in a million shot and one of the best gaming achievements ever.
Oh, hell yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, I know those temples can get shitty if you don't have like something you need at the very end for the boss because they won't refill it all the way.
Right. Man, that's one of those things where, you know, you definitely wish that you could like share that somehow. Like, that's one of the things, again, that I love about the PS4 share is, you know, being able to upload those clips and stuff like that.
Yeah, especially after the fact, because you never know when you're going to want the last 20 minutes.
Yeah. Except I got this like 111 combo on Spider-Man that I wanted to share, and it glitched out when I was trying to share it, and I was so upset because it like restarted the game, and then I was like, well, maybe it still saved that last 15 minutes, and then I went to hit the share button, and it was just showing like, you know, just the couple seconds that I was back into the game, and I was like, damn it, I'm never going to be able to do that again.
Oh. Never say never.
We'll see. Like, it's funny because I hadn't even realized that I'd hit over 100, and then the instant that I realized I was over 100 combo, I lost it. I just kind of hit the zone, and then, you know, all of a sudden realized what was going on. I was like, oh, I haven't gotten hit in a while.
Do love the zone.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess that is it for this final edition of State Select for the year. It's a short one, but a sweet one. Not too shabby after the lengthy State Select of last episode.
Yeah, I guess not that many people want to talk about, you know, their big achievements, trying to be humble.
Maybe it's that. I still think that I scared them off with that mega State Select last time. They were just like, we can't do 4 hours back to back, guys. Yeah, so obviously we're not going to announce the next Stage Select because we've got a handful of non-standard format episodes coming at you. Next episode, we are going to be doing our annual State of the Generation, and I don't want to jinx it, but I'm pretty much locked in our biggest guest to date, so excited for that. Of course, now that I've announced it on the show, like, things are probably going to happen to where he can't show up, but damn it, Julian. Mm-hmm. After that, we're going to have like our music special, which we're going to do like we did last year, where we just kind of record stuff individually and then I'll put them together. And then we'll be taking our hiatus. So, that'll give us time to play some of the games that we've picked up over the Black Friday deals and whatnot, and get a few more games under our belt for the year. And then when we come back at the beginning of next year, we'll be able to talk about our favorite games that we played in 2018.
Yeah, and that should be about the time that I have another big guest for us to come on at the beginning of, our next session.
Yeah. All right, so that's going to do it for Stage Select after that little bit of housekeeping. So let's jump into some Consumption Junction, guys.
Moses supposes his toes are roses, but Moses supposes erroneously.
But Moses, he noses, his toes aren't roses, as Moses supposes his toes to be. Moses supposes his toes are roses, but Moses supposes erroneously. A Mose is a Mose.
A rose is a rose.
A toes is a toes. Hoop-de-doo-de-doo. Moses supposes his toes are roses, but Moses supposes erroneously. For Moses, he noses, his toes aren't roses, as Moses supposes his toes to be.
Moses supposes his toes are roses, but Moses supposes erroneously. But Moses knows his toes are roses, but Moses supposes his toes to be.
Roses are roses, are roses, are roses, are roses, but Moses supposes his toes couldn't be a lily or a taffy dilly. It's gotta be a rose, cause it rhymes with Moses.
And Patrick, I'm dying to know. Because we're now a week removed from Black Friday and Cyber Monday and all those shenanigans. Yeah. Oh, let's be fair. Like, these sales start at, like, the beginning of November now, and they go through the end of November. Like, you know, it's no longer, like, as special as it used to be as far as, like, trying to nail those deals on that one day. But, you know, this is the time of year where you do your stock up basically for the next year. It's like you're getting your acorns ready. For the next season.
Yeah, exactly.
So what acorns did you end up choosing?
Yeah, I got some good acorns this time. They're golden acorns, I'd say. I've been playing the last week a lot of God of War, which I picked up for, you know, $20 or $18 or something, $17.99. It's good to have on your extended hard drive, and I wanted to add a lot more games onto my extended hard drive that I just got. So not only did I pick that one up, but I picked up Persona 5, which is one that we've been talking about for a year now, and I just needed time. I still do, getting into it. I'm like, this is the best one ever by far, and I can't.
Yeah, I was gonna, like, are you ready to undertake that journey? Like, I don't think
No,
you
that's
are.
why I've been mostly playing God of War. I'm like, this is a lot shorter of a game, and something I'm ready for right now.
Mm-hmm. Is that all you ended up picking up? Usually you do like a buy two get one free type thing.
Well, they didn't have any buy two get one frees on digitally, so I didn't. Yeah, I didn't really pick up any more games with Black Friday deals, but I got like some new DLC for Rocksmith because there's some good songs that have come out recently. Some more blues type stuff that is really, I guess, some of my favorite DLC in a while, some songs that I hadn't heard before, but I'll talk about that maybe a little bit briefly on the music episode when I have some more time with them. But just, yeah, I've been getting enough practice time on my guitar that people have actually told me to get out and record my own stuff now, which is great. So, yeah, cool. Like the fruits of my labor are finally blossoming. So, I mean, that technically wasn't Black Friday, but it was around Black Friday. And along the same lines, this new game that came out, The Forest, is one that I picked up, and it was just on the friends' whims that we wanted to get into another game like we had with Destiny, and this was a survival game that is 4-player co-op. So we all got into that in the last few days, and they've spent way too much time with it compared to what they had to do, like going into work the next morning and had like these meetings that they were bloodshot, red-eyed for, and you know that's the sign of a good game, but also not so good for their lives. This game, The Forest, has been pretty cool, and I know a lot about it now, where I could get into some survival tips, and that's been fun to try to figure out. After restarting a few times, it gets pretty annoying, but then like piecing together that stuff with your experiences to what the other friends are finding, and we're trying to look a little bit now on the internet on what other people have done to get like good starts and things like that, because it does get pretty annoying when you don't know what's going on. And
well, what is it? Because I don't know if our listeners have necessarily heard about it. I think I've heard it mentioned on a podcast once, but I'm still kind of iffy on it as well.
Okay, it's like Don't Starve, basically mixed with Call of Duty Zombies, from the first-person perspective, more realistic looking than Don't Starve. Obviously, is like stylized animation, but it's pretty much the same there. Where there's like cannibals that have taken over this forest in certain places, and you've crash landed like on an airplane, and it's split into two parts, and you just wake up all bloody. And you don't really know why you got there, but you find like these different cassette tapes on the island. I think it's an island. There's like a peninsula, and there's some lakes and stuff. But yeah, they call it The Forest. So who knows really what it is in the end? We're just piecing it together ourselves, and I haven't really like looked at what the story ends up being, because you know there is like an end to it, I think. But like there is also like how many days have you been able to survive without dying? So that's pretty cool too. So it's like, yeah, zombies mixed with Don't Starve. I mean, I shouldn't say
a little bit of Lost in there too.
Yeah, it's kind of like Lost actually. Yeah, there's like weird parts of the forest that you find certain caves to, and there's all these different things like inside them that help you, like modern axes, and there's a large crafting element, which I don't quite get yet. Like, some of the things that you craft in this game don't really seem like they would end up with the things that you get.
Right.
So I have a little trouble with that, but like feathers around a stick don't make an enhanced stick. Why would I have seen that one coming? But feathers apparently are used for enhancing almost everything.
Like you do.
Yeah, and that's cool.
That strong feather aerodynamics.
Yeah, I think that's really going to help when you have a cannibal coming at you, wailing their arms around. It's funny though. Like, feathers. We'll build a lot, and that's like what one of my friends likes to do is build like the headquarters or find the best place and stuff like that. So when we spent like probably 3 or 4 hours on our own shacks and stuff, and we just walled it in. It's funny when someone's chopping down a tree and it falls right on my shack and explodes my house, literally. And that happened a couple times to us, and no one would own up to who it was, and of course I wasn't around.
Right.
But it's just funny to have those kind of things happen with a small crew of people. That'll happen. You'll sometimes randomly get lit on fire and you won't know why.
I'm guessing that friendly fire is fully intact.
Yeah, and you also have bonfires where you're cooking stuff and you'll accidentally run over it because you're trying to also put those bonfires near other things that, like you're lodging, and you won't see it on the ground, but they'll be like, oh, who's on fire again? Is that Patrick? Because I have a tendency to do that more than others. I've been kissed by fire, But
it's that ginger hair.
Mm-hmm.
It's just your innate element.
So those kind of things are funny. Just random deaths like that can be annoying, but still, your friends can bring you back if it's not like something where you're in like a patrol of cannibals and you can't get your body back, because all your ingredients and things that you have do get left like where your body dies, but you can go back to it kind of.
Right.
Yeah, so those kind of things are fun and have made it kind of a mystery, and I'm happy to see where we go from here. It's an early contender for like the most surprising game of the year because I had no idea about what it was either, but at $20, a friend bought it for me for Christmas, and so I couldn't say no.
Yeah. Well, and you haven't been able to like really sink your teeth into a multiplayer game in a long time either. Not counting, I mean, obviously Hearthstone, but I mean like
right.
A bigger multiplayer game, because I don't think you've really played anything like that since like Overwatch, and that's been well over a year now.
Yeah, it's been a lot of like trying to find something good and just settling on first person games and stuff like that, or local co-op. But besides that, nothing really. So it's been good to finally maybe find one, especially one that my friends are trying to find strategies to while they're at work and stuff. You know that it's a good game when that happens. And with that and Smash right around the corner, I think we got a lot of multiplayer coming up in the next couple months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how are you finding God of War? I've been very curious about how you were going to receive it because, you're probably a bigger God of War fan than I am. And that's not to say that I am a small God of War fan. I really loved those first 3 games. And, I definitely have plenty of issues with it. I enjoyed it in the end, but, it's definitely, I would not give it 5 stars like many, many people did.
Yeah, I would.
Let's just say that. Yeah?
I mean, I liked them that much. I played all of them.
No. I mean this newest one. I would, yeah, like those older ones, sure. But I mean, like this new one.
Oh,
like,
man, I've been thinking about you a lot whenever Atreus says anything, because I'm like, damn, Julian must really hate children.
Yeah, I do.
It's so funny.
But I find, like I said, it's not even so much what he says. I just think his voice actor is bad. Like, I have heard far better children actors in games than him.
Yeah, I thought you thought he was, like, really annoying or something, and I haven't gotten really annoyed in him yet. But it's just funny because sometimes he's trying to help and he doesn't help him. Like, Julian was probably really mad at him there. and then Kratos gets mad at him. I'm like, Julian is Kratos.
I mean, definitely part of it probably has to do with the fact that I just don't like kids, and you've taught kids, so you're used to being around them. But the thing that the thing you're probably talking about though did annoy me because he would start to like point out solutions to puzzles before you even have a chance to look around. And I'm like, kid, well, give me a second. Let me look around a sec before you start giving out, out hints to the, to the puzzle.
Some of the puzzles are maddening, just like moving things in the game again, which is really not what it's known so much for as the years have gone by. It's more of a hack and slash game that's set up for you to fail a couple times before you actually do well at it. But I really feel like the enemies are placed very distinguishedly. How would I say it? The enemies are placed with a purpose, and in all of those purposes so far, I felt that I needed to adapt to their tactics and learn the ways to combo better. And I'm finally getting to that point where I've gotten unlocked permafrost, and so I'm pretty close to the beginning. I guess I would be an hour and a half, 2 hours in or something like that. But when you're playing it on hard, it takes a little bit longer on everything as well. So I'm underestimating myself because I'm doing it to myself again, and I'm trying.
You are.
Yeah. I mean,
dude, I would just tell you, and I mean, you're better at games than I am, but I died so much on normal on that game.
Yeah, my friends even said that normal was a lot for them, and I didn't know that going in because there's 4 difficulties, and I figured picking the third would be fine. And this one dude that I work with was laughing right away, oh, why didn't you just do it on God of War mode? And I was like, should I? And he started laughing oh yeah, sure. I was like, well, I thought that I should just do it on hard the first time through, because usually you need the power-ups to beat it on the highest difficulty, but I mean, does it let you carry things over in New Game Plus? I thought it would, but I'm not sure.
I'm not sure if it'll let you carry over, if it'll let you bump up the difficulty on a New Game Plus. You may be saving yourself some time in the long run if you're trying to get all of the achievements.
And I looked at it, and I don't think there is one for beating it on God of War mode. I actually don't think there's a trophy for beating it on any difficulty this time around.
Oh, you might be right, because I know a lot of people were platinuming it, and even people who don't normally platinum those types of games.
It says 5% platinumed right now, which is extremely high.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was looking at, unless it's one of the hidden trophies that I don't know about. I don't think so, though, and that's probably a good thing, because I might have to bring it down in the end. We'll see. I like the challenge, but
It gets rough. But I will say that one thing I've noticed on the PlayStation that they've done that's really cool is with the New Game Plus stuff, they actually break that out into a separate entry. So on Spider-Man, you can platinum the main game, but then there's a second set of trophies for New Game Plus. So there is the one for beating it on New Game Plus, but also beating it on the hardest difficulty. So it's not required to do those in order to get the platinum. And I think that's pretty smart.
Yeah.
That's just an extra set of bragging rights for the hardest of hardcore trophy hunters.
Yeah. Well, that would still be a crowning achievement if I do finish it on hard there, but there is an even harder difficulty. So again, it's not the hardest thing I could do, but it is probably too hard for my own good. I've died, 10 or 15 times at the same boss already. But now that I've gotten the idea of it, I've been only dying once or twice.
Patrick, do you like really strong women? The type who wear leather and maybe carry whips? Because I'm starting to wonder.
Yeah, I mean, I like my strong woman much as any progressive male in these days and age. I do like to read a lot of novels with a female protagonist in them, but I don't know if it ever gets to the point where they're S&M in me or anything like that. I mean, in my normal life, yeah, I like a strong woman too, but not like that.
Okay, I was just curious.
I just like to see them succeed.
You sure do seem to like to inflict pain upon yourself, and I thought maybe it's something that you like other people to do to you in your free time.
I guess the women I go for are so strong and powerful, they do inflict pain on me, but it's more emotional.
Yeah.
I mean, taming a powerful woman is not, is what is it, the mystery of life? It's not an easy thing to do.
No, it is not.
Most only do it once, some never at all.
So how are you finding the combat on God of War, it being such a departure? Because I've been really curious about you playing this game, because part of me is like, he's going to love it. And then another part of me was like, he's going to hate it.
Yeah, it's been hard to adjust to. I died a lot at the beginning because you can't just dodge. You'll actually get hit in dodges, like I said earlier. And I'd like to, I mean, I'm used to playing that way. So using a shield just to parry things back, it feels like vulnerable to me because I feel like they're just going to hit me, but it's meant to be like that where you're supposed to like get hit almost. And I mean, I guess Doom is kind of like that where you go into it and you melee stuff, but that's easier to do because it's another, it's like R3 versus L1. And like, I don't know, having L1 up there, I didn't remember to dodge for a very long period of time. And now I've figured out that using the shield is what you've got to do. Also, having that axe is a lot weirder than having the Blades of Chaos. So I guess this is probably going to be the story of him finding the blades or something like that. But I'm not really sure.
The axe is cool, but it took me a really long time to really start using it the way it's meant to be used.
Yeah.
And so it took probably way longer for me than it probably should have for the combat to click. And it also took a bunch of upgrades, like improving my axe and... You know, like, it's one of those games where, like, all of the stuff is really important, like, all of the upgrades and all of the things that you do, but it's so, like, convoluted, like, the way that it imparts that information to you, like, you know, it's very granular, and it's definitely a game that's built around, like, you're supposed to be making builds of Kratos, right? Like, you're supposed to be speccing around certain abilities and stuff like that fits to your play style, but for me, I was always like, no, I just want the number to go bigger. So I'm just going to equip the stuff that makes the number go bigger, right? Because sometimes you'll equip something that makes the number go smaller, and I don't want the number to go smaller ever.
Yeah.
So I would probably be at a disadvantage simply because I didn't want to see those arrows pointing down.
Mm. Yeah, there are different options even early on for armor that it's hard to see, like if it's the trade-off that I want or what. But I think I'm going with this permafrost and other frost-based enhancement build. I'm not sure what else I could do, but that seemed pretty cool.
Yeah, freezing is definitely helpful. Have you fought any Dark Elves yet?
Nope.
Okay. Definitely tell me when you fight some of those, because I'll be curious.
What do they look like? Those aren't the blue guys, are they?
No. They've got masks on, so I can't really see what they look like. They fly around, and they like to hit you with a blind attack that lasts for an inordinately large amount of time, and then right as it's about to wear off, more often than not, they'll hit you with another one. It's very, very annoying.
Ouch.
And I never really learned how to fight them effectively. That's the thing. Is I know that there's a trick to beating them, but I never really like grokked that.
That's
so
you
might end up like getting the trick for like to it like right away, but I had a hard time fighting them every time that I fought them, and it was just like, oh great, I'm blinded again. Oh, I'm blinded again. Awesome. Let's just,
Yeah, that's like one discussion we still need to have someday, which is like a normal enemy that gave us like a much tougher time than most people that like, is still
right.
haunting us to this day.
Yeah. They might be up on that list for me. Huh.
Right, like your cacodemons.
Well, that's more of just, that's not that they gave me trouble, it's that they gave me nightmares.
Yeah. Right. And that's probably the brain mostly adjusting to that kind of trauma that you've never seen before.
Cacodemon in the closet. Not a dream that I would recommend.
Yeah. Not very cool.
No.
But yeah, so those were my big purchases. Didn't purchase much of anything else, even though I was thinking about getting more. Like Horizon I thought would be redundant kind of at this point if I got those other two ones. And now
I thought for sure you were going to get Horizon. I was just so excited to talk to you about it.
Well, I mean, the other ones are basically doing the same thing, and it's going to take a long time, and they'll probably have like another sale that'll be even bigger by the time I want to play it anyway. But
true.
The one that
actually I could see that one being a PS Plus game sometime next year, honestly.
Yeah, that'll probably be the biggest one. They just announced Soma for a PS Plus. That'll be cool this December, but not as big as I was hoping. I guess this Yakuza is the big one which is another.
Yeah, I was surprised about Yakuza and Bulletstorm.
Yeah, and people are liking Burly Men at Sea as well.
Oh, I haven't looked at that one.
Yeah,
that sounds fun though.
Better get it before the next Tuesday, but yeah. So there's a lot to play already that's single player and story based, that has just even been given to me free that I thought this was already enough. The one that I'm more likely to still pick up before any of these sales end is the new, what do you call it? Dragon Ball fighting game, Fighter Z.
Right.
So I want that, but then there was like $30 to $60 more worth of DLC, and then I stopped because I was like, oh shit, we're gonna have to buy all these extra characters again, and that happens to me in every fighting game. And now look at the other fighting games on here, like Mortal Kombat XL was $10 for everything. And I was like, Jesus, you can just wait and get all of it. Now they're releasing another season for Tekken, and I'm gonna have to either buy that or just never get those characters, and it's like so hard to keep up with the amount of fighting games I've got, even though that one looks like maybe the coolest one. So I'm on the fence about that, but that's the only other one.
I almost picked it up, but I was like, it's still too much for how little I know I'm going to play it. So I'll wait until next Black Friday because it'll probably be like 10 or $15, and that's probably, not that it's not a, worth like even $60. Like it's not that. It's just that I know I'm not going to get $60 worth of playtime out of it.
Right.
For me personally.
Versus Persona 5 that I got for, $20 and I'm going to get 120 hours out of it or something.
Yeah.
That's bang for your buck, baby.
It is. I didn't really pick up much around Black Friday simply because, as I said on the show, my Best Buy Gamers Reward Unlocked program was expiring in the earlier part of November. So I actually stocked up on a bunch of games beforehand simply because, it was my last chance to get them for 20% off, but also get double reward points. So I've got like a whole bunch of certificates coming my way. So I had picked up like a bunch of Switch games, and I picked up Soul Calibur 6 and Monster Hunter World and Hitman 2. Oh.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, like I said, a bunch of Switch games. So, as far as Black Friday, I just picked up a couple things digitally for my Xbox One. I got Rise of the Tomb Raider because my physical copy is still packed up, and I know that I'm moving when my lease is up, and I'm moving into a smaller apartment. So my games are going to be packed up for the foreseeable future, which means that I will not be able to play Rise of the Tomb Raider, for the foreseeable future. And I wanted to play Shadow of the Tomb Raider. So I went ahead, and Rise of the Tomb Raider was cheap enough on sale that I didn't mind double dipping. And then I went ahead and picked up Shadow of the Tomb Raider as well.
My friends have just said that it's okay that Uncharted is like an exclusive when they're defending Xbox because Rise of the Tomb Raider or the new Tomb Raider trilogy has outdone the Uncharted trilogy. I was like, what? This is what they're trying to come at me with like now? So I don't know what to do.
I mean, I haven't played the Uncharted games, but just from looking at both of them, I don't think that's true. I think the Uncharted games are probably, significantly like higher quality, but that's not to like downplay those Tomb Raider games. I really love.
It's nice that there's even a conversation now, but however biased it may be.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the fact that the sad fact of the matter is that there just really isn't much, worth playing that's exclusive on the Xbox One. But I like playing all the third-party stuff on it.
Yeah.
And then I picked up this other little game called Forgotten Anne, which was just one of those things where I'm sifting through the store, and it had this really interesting look to it. It's almost like, think of it as like a really low-budget Studio Ghibli movie, like animation-wise.
Yeah.
But it's like a 2D side-scrolling like adventure game. But the nice thing is that like, even though the animation quality isn't like superb, what you get when you're just walking around is the same quality as when it goes into the cutscenes. So it's a seamless transition. And it's this story about this world where all of the stuff that people lose goes to. So basically like, if you lose your sock under your bed and forget about it, then that sock gets transported to this world, but it becomes sentient when it comes to this world. So it's like, you have all of these like, not anthropomorphic, but you have all of these like living, objects, basically, that can talk and think and work and everything like that.
That's cool.
But you play as Anne, who's actually a human, and I don't know what her story is yet, but I'm assuming that it's one of those things where she was abandoned or something like that and forgotten and ended up in this world. But it's got a really cool look to it, and I'm really looking forward to playing it. But, dude, I played so many games over the Thanksgiving break, Patrick. It's not even, I plus have played like about 35 hours easy worth of video games in like 4.5 days.
Wow. It's like game in, game out all day.
Yeah, dude, it was like everybody else was getting filled up on Turkey. I was getting filled up on Spider-Man and Hitman 2. I played all the way through Spider-Man on PS4 because I had started it beforehand, but I only played a little bit of it. But I played the majority of it during that week. 2018 is going to go down in history as the year of 5-star games that Julian felt was not 5-star. Not to say that I think Spider-Man is a bad game by any means. I just had enough issues with it to where, like, you know, I wouldn't score it that highly. And I think for me, a lot of it is that throughout the entire game, like, the controls never clicked with me. It's wholesale, like, I should just say this up front. It is 100% Arkham City with a Spider-Man veneer. Like, they're not even trying to disguise the fact that they have just, like, wholesale ripped off the entire Arkham City game.
That's like, you know, the best one to rip off, so.
Yeah, but it's like right down to the way that you do the communication towers, to the types of crimes, you know, the types of activities you're doing. The combat is straight off of Batman. You know, it's just kind of amazing. Even just like the way the story progresses is very much like Arkham City.
But he's got webs.
And I will say that like the web traversal is really fun. When I'm only exploring, webbing is amazing. Anytime that the game asks me to chase something or do something on a timer, I turn like it's like I've never picked up a controller before, Patrick. It's embarrassing. Like, I'm going the wrong way. I'm running into walls. I'm falling. There's something about it where, like, as soon as the pressure's on, I can't play the game. And I don't know what it is.
Funny.
Yeah, it was another one of those situations where I'm like, am I getting too old for video games? Like, is that what's happening here? Like, but I will say that the combat was like my biggest sticking point because it just doesn't feel as good as Batman, even though it's trying to do largely the same thing. And I had actually picked up that was another thing I picked up. I forgot. I picked up that Batman Arkham Return to Arkham HD collection for Xbox for like $5. And I just happened to play the beginning of Arkham Asylum just because I hadn't played it in 10 years. And instantly, like, the first time that I'm able to, like, press the punch button, I'm like, this feels so damn good. Like, everything about this is perfect. And then I go and play Spider-Man and I'm like, none of this feels right. There's something about this that everything feels off. And, you know, it's not that I couldn't play it because, like I said, I got like up to the point where I could do like a 100-hit combo, but it just never felt right to me. And I can't really put my finger on it. Part of it is that Spider-Man never feels strong, even though he's much stronger than Batman, you know, like he just categorically. And then also up until I figured out that, they want you to do this like specific move where he like basically throws his web at like a distant enemy and then pulls himself towards the enemy. He doesn't do a good job of closing the distance between guys. And I'm like, how, like for a large part of the game, I was like, how is it that Batman, who has no superpowers, can jump the 20-foot distance between these enemies in a brawl and Spider-Man can't do the same when he should just do that effortlessly? And again, it was just, I wasn't playing the game correctly, but it also just felt weird that, like, he just wouldn't do that by default.
Yeah, what is
Spider-Man?
He supposed to do when he goes from one guy to another? Does he take the webs and he, like, slingshots himself there? Or?
Yeah. Yeah, but it's an actual button press that you have to do. Where, you know, with Batman, it's like, you know, it does this they kind of fudge it, where as long as you're pressing the button in time, he'll find the enemy.
Yeah.
Even if that enemy is like a ridiculous distance away, he'll still manage to jump kick that dude.
Right.
And sometimes it looks silly, but at the same time, it's like, I would expect Spider-Man to do that and also do it far more convincingly.
Yeah.
So that was like a weird, like, brain disconnect for me. The game is bloody gorgeous and it like it feels really good. Like, just moving around feels really good. The other big complaint that I have about it is intrinsically tied towards the story, so I'm not going to say anything about it. But let's just say that I feel that they were setting up a really cool thing that they should have saved for Spider-Man 2 instead of blowing their wad in the first game. Like, it was sort of one of those things where it's like you're building to something, but then you're like, oh, we're out of time, so I got to do this now. And it's like, so all of a sudden, like, this like nice slow build up turns into this really quick conclusion. And it's like, it just doesn't mesh well with the story that they were telling. And it's a really good story too. I really like the characterizations of all the characters. You actually get to control Peter Parker, which I think is important. And you also get to play as Mary Jane and Miles Morales in their own sections and stuff like that. And I liked being able to, you know, inhabit different roles in the game, because that's something that when they explore comic book characters in other mediums, they tend to forget that, like, it's not just the superhero part that's interesting. It's also the alter ego and the relationships that alter ego has with the other characters.
Yeah.
And this game does a good job of bringing that into the story. So I do very much recommend it.
Yeah, it sounds like a good game just to watch. Now, are you doing this on PS Pro with the 4K?
Well, I'm doing it on PS4, but it doesn't actually have any, this is weird. It didn't have any, like, PS4 Pro options in the menu.
That's what I was gonna ask, if there was, like, an extra HD ray tracing, anything. And I guess ray tracing is not really, that's only PC.
Oh, no. Yeah, ray tracing is, like, bleeding edge PC. Like,
it's like high def, rendering now, I guess we get on PS4 Pro, right?
Well, I mean, they can do, like a 4K up-res and stuff like that. And it does the HDR stuff, but I mean, a regular PS4 can do that. So yeah, there wasn't like a performance mode or even like a higher texture mode or anything like that. And I was surprised, because I thought that all games moving forward were supposed to have some sort of PS4 Pro option available from the get-go, but maybe they'll add it, you know, they're still adding stuff to that game. So it's possible that it's coming, but it doesn't matter. That game looks amazing.
Yeah.
I was literally like halfway through the game where I was like, wait, is there like I didn't even see an option for like PS4 Pro stuff. Like, I wonder if I should change it to like performance mode to see if it like is even faster. And then I noticed, oh, there actually isn't anything. And I was like, all right, not a big deal.
That's cool.
It still looks amazing.
God of War like looks amazing on just the stock PS4. So that's why I was wondering if the Spider-Man experience was the same, because I thought Insomniac would add some bells and whistles, but you know,
I thought so too.
They add stuff to their games long after it comes out, so who knows? Yeah,
I mean, I am going to platinum this one. I beat the game with like 89% completion. I'm about 95% now. I've been kind of plugging away at the different districts. It's another one of those games where it's like just too much shit on those maps.
Yeah.
You guys could have like reduced this by like 30% and it would have been just as good a game.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you start to see like the exact same scenarios where it's like literally like I'm rescuing the same dude from a trunk. And it's like, man, these guys really have it out for you, dude. Like, they've kidnapped you 5 times.
Yeah. Like, you thought, The Witcher also was a little too long for its own good, huh?
More than a little too long. I finished it. That was the other thing that I did on Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah. And that takes a whole weekend.
Yeah. Like, I finished Spider-Man, I think, on Friday night, and then all Saturday and all Sunday was The Witcher 3.
Yeah. I mean, didn't you like how the story developed? I love that. But, you know, if you're in time crunch mode, I could see how it could be a lot.
Well, and I wasn't actually in time crunch mode in the sense, like, it's just that I got to a point where I could see the end on the horizon and I wanted it to be done.
Yeah.
Cause there's a point where they're like, this is the point of no return. And I'm like, okay, awesome. And then you have this really awesome battle at Kaer Morhen where it's all based on like all the decisions you've made throughout the game. And I'm like, this is cool. It's like the suicide mission on Mass Effect 2. And then that ends and the game continues for another 8 hours.
Yeah. There's a lot of walking up that mountain and going and fighting against everybody in the hunt.
Yes. Yeah. There's a bunch of stuff. And
I do like all those like bosses from the hunt though. I love like the march up.
Yeah, fighting the Wild Hunt guys reminded, it kind of brought like what I didn't like about the combat to the forefront, in the sense that like, when you're fighting shielded guys and stuff like that, like pretty much you're playing like a reactionary game where you're waiting for them to attack and then you like parry and counterattack.
Yeah.
Because they're just going to like turtle up and block all of your moves. Although I guess I never tried Axie. That probably would have helped.
Oh yeah, dude. You never staggered people with Axie?
No, I did, but usually I was using Igni because that was like the one that I had like the most upgrades put into.
Oh, okay.
And it was like the most upgraded.
I was all signs, so I had all of them upgraded.
Yeah. So I'm torn overall. I will say right now, I think The Witcher 3 is one of my favorite games of the generation easily. And so part of me is like,
and you haven't even played the DLC yet. Let's put that out there.
Yeah. Part of me was like, they could have eliminated a lot of this stuff and it still would have been just as enjoyable of a game, but tighter. But the thing is that the stuff that I liked the most was the side content. I think the main story is fine. You get so far removed. Like there's points where you go so long without any mention of the Wild Hunt or Ciri.
Yeah.
That I got to a point where when they did bring her up and like, Geralt asked like, or someone asked him why the Wild Hunt wanted Ciri, and I was like, yeah, why does the Wild Hunt want Ciri? Because I've completely forgotten. I don't even remember the last time I saw her in a cutscene. It's probably been 20 hours.
That is pretty fun, though.
Yeah. And I got like a really cool ending, and like I really enjoyed it. It's just that I think I'm really looking forward to when you play Horizon, like when you finally pick it up, because I think Horizon does everything that I love about what The Witcher 3 does, but it does it in a tighter fashion where it's like, it says what it needs to say, but it gets out before it starts to wear out its welcome. And it's not that Witcher 3 wore out its welcome with me, but like with Horizon, I cleared everything off of that map because I wanted to. And on Witcher 3, I got to the Skellige Isles and I was like, there is no effing way.
See,
like I'm just not. But the thing is that like those are also possible side missions that have storyline and
it's like
characters
really good
that I haven't met
too. Like Ermion, there's like the druids, like the whole.
Oh, I did that stuff.
Oh yeah. But like that also comes back in the DLCs as well with more story for him. But
cool.
I love the fact that there's, huge stories for like these druids and alchemists and mages that take like significant story arcs in it that you could also just miss because they're just packed into these mountains and stuff. So that's like when you save Dandelion, that effectively finishes the main story quest in Novigrad, and you can completely miss the whole part where you help him open his cabaret. And if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have done my favorite mission in the game, which was what I talked about last time, which was basically Witcher CSI, where it's like I'm investigating a serial killer like that attacks Dandelion's girlfriend, and that whole thing was so cool because there were like 3 different times that I could have gotten the wrong guy or done the wrong thing and ended the quest prematurely. And like when I saw it all the way to the end, I was like, damn right, I'm a really good CSI. Yeah, it does kind of feel fun when you actually look throughout the world and find the right clues because there's a lot of red herrings in that game. But I'm also just excited that there's like 4 ways to play it basically. And I'd like to get into an alchemist build the next time through because you don't see many games with as deep a combat system, at least in the terms of upgrades, to offer like an entire way to beat it like that.
Yeah, I found the actual upgrading to be a little convoluted is not the right word. I guess I didn't like being limited to like.
There's like, I guess.
No, that's not the right word. I don't know.
Maybe 3 main builds that you're not going to steer that far away from, but.
Yeah. And you definitely can't get everything. And I do like that because I think a lot of these games, these modern games that kind of wrap in RPG mechanics into non-RPG games, not like The Witcher, but like Spider-Man or, or God of War, they just slightly miss the mark. And, in The Witcher, you actually have to decide where you want to put your points because you're not going to get everything.
Yeah.
Unless you play it, maybe a New Game Plus all the way through a second time, then probably you would. But there's just not enough points to go around to fully upgrade every single thing.
Even then, I think you'd only be 2/3 of the way there, maybe.
Yeah. And so I like having to make hard choices about how you want to upgrade and spec out your character. I do like that, yeah.
Yeah. But then a lot of it can come down to dodge rolls and magic that staggers them, so.
Mm-hmm.
That's games these days.
Yeah. But, I had my happy ending with Geralt and Yennefer, just, whiling away the days, very peacefully.
Oh, you got Yennefer, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was happy for them.
I did not get anybody.
Oh, that's right. We talked about that.
Yeah. But when you don't get anybody, who you get is Dandelion.
Nice.
So I was like, that probably would have been me in real life.
I mean, Dandelion will hook you up. Let's not.
Yeah,
let's
I mean,
play.
But he would like also make a bunch of art with you daily, and you get the best wines, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And I've already got my own wine cellar, so I'm gonna need help.
Play some Gwent with Zoltan.
Yeah.
That game's got some fantastic characters in it, man. It's really something else. Again, I wish that, cause I think I ended up at like 85 hours or so. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot. Like, and I think my total time on Horizon, having done everything, including the expansion, was something like 70.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to see after your DLC runs how much you do in them, as well as how much time that adds to the game. Probably be about 110, all things said and done, I'd say.
I think I'll be pretty close to yours, because so when I beat the game, I only had 3 Witcher contracts open and 1 side mission open, and the only reason that I hadn't finished that side mission is because it was right around the same level as the expansion pack stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna save this side mission to do along with the expansion stuff.
All right.
So it was a conscious decision to not, finish that one. And then I didn't do the horse races because I always felt the horse racing was lame. Like, it always feels like they're just letting you win. They kind of slow down when you slow down, and then they let you like overtake them. And I was like, okay, there's not really any skill here.
Yeah.
I did do all of the fighting. I became the grand champion of the fights.
Oh wow, I didn't do that.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
There's some interesting stuff in there. You should finish that quest line.
I got most of the Gwent cards though. I spent so many days with that.
Yeah, I never understood Gwent, so I didn't do any of that.
It also gets to the point where it's like, you're holding back on me and just letting me win.
Yeah. Well, and also like I knew that I couldn't get the achievement for getting all of the cards anyway, because in my game, the Bloody Baron hung himself, and I couldn't get his card off of him anymore, so.
Yeah, I missed that one too.
Yeah. I was like, man, life comes at you fast.
You can still get another one that's like, get a Gwent power deck above a certain level or something, which you can do. I don't know. It's just fun to play people in that world and take on different lives as both card player and murderer.
Yeah. And I will say that, like, one of the things that I really enjoyed about the game was living the Witcher life. And by that, I mean, like, as the game progressed, I started to get really well versed in the monsters and what I would need to fight them. So, like, there was one part where I was on a story mission, I think, with a character. I think it was with Triss. And at one point, Geralt is just like looking around, and he's like, "Oh, it's an Ekimara." And the second he said that, I was like, "Okay." And I went into my menu, and I equipped the vampire oil, and I equipped Igni. I was like, "I'm ready to go. Like, I know exactly what this is going to be."
Yeah, that is pretty fun. You do feel like a badass when you prepare yourself for the right battles with the right decoctions or what have you, oils.
Yeah.
And I did like finding like different recipes and crafting those, so thought that was. Sometimes I screwed myself over by not getting like the early one, and then I had the enhanced superior and master potion recipes, but I couldn't get them because I didn't ever use that at the beginning of the game,
Yeah, I ran into a problem. I was trying to upgrade the Griffin Witcher gear, and I had it up to level 3, and I had the diagrams for level 5, but I never found the diagrams for level 4. Oh. And I was like, okay, well, this stuff is useless.
I have Grandmaster Griffin gear.
Nice.
It's amazing. And the only way you could beat it on hard, I think, like, especially at the end, like, you need the the
bonuses.
The bonuses to slow people down inside the what is it, Axie sign?
So I slept on The Witcher 3 for a long time. I'm not going to sleep on Cyberpunk 2077.
No,
That'll be a day
it's
one
going to be
purchase.
so good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it immensely now.
That's going to be like I have to take off a week.
Yeah. Yeah, that might actually be one, depending on, I might try to take a vacation day or two around that. And I haven't done that for a game in a long time.
Yeah, I think it's going to have a lot more choices than anything even we've seen to this point.
Yeah. So, looking forward to it. And looking forward to bringing you guys the next episode, but I think we're probably done with this episode. What do you think, Patrick?
Yeah, let's get some video gaming in for once.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, I got plenty, but I've still got more that I want to play. Like I said, I picked up Hitman 2, but I'll save that for next year.
I mean, after the podcast, usually we go right after. We got a little time though.
We do have a little time, although I'm sick, so I'm probably just gonna watch a little bit of YouTube and then pass out.
Yeah, my throat really hurts, so it was good that everybody could stick with us. I can't even think correctly, and I'm not even drinking, so it's like,
Yeah, hopefully you guys didn't mind we didn't sound up to snuff on this episode as we usually do, but we should be back to 100% in time for our next guest and for our next episode.
Yeah. I gotta say, it was good learning more about the types of gamers we are really talking to and listening to. So I feel like we, know a lot more about our listeners and everybody who's in the community at this point that did tell us their biggest achievements.
Oh yeah, always. And we'll learn more about them in 2019 as well. And if you guys want, in the show thread, for this episode, episode 143, or if you want to hit us up on Twitter at NWPcast, just give us some of your thoughts about how you feel about this year in gaming, or the generation as a whole. That's kind of what we do around this time every year, and we'll read them out on the show. In that case, we'll probably just weave them in and out of the show. We'll just weave those in and out of the show instead of having a dedicated comment section, but we'll just kind of throw them in as they're pertinent to the discussion. But that should be a lot of fun. And then again, some specials coming up for you after that. But until then, for myself and Patrick, thanks for listening. And keep it pantsless, Internet. Goodbye.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We've talked the whole night through.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. It's great to stay up late. Good morning. Good morning to you. When the band began to play, the stars were shining bright.
Now the milkman's on his way, it's too late to say goodnight.
So good morning, good morning.
Sunbeams will soon smile through. Good morning to you and you and you and you. Good morning, good morning. We've gabbed the whole night through. Good morning to you.
Nothing could be grander than to be in Louisiana
In the morning, it's great to stay up late. Good morning to you.
Might be just as zippy if we was in Mississippi.
When we left the movie show, the future wasn't bright, but